Caledonian McBrain and the Big Light present
Falcha, I'm Coinneach Macleod, the Hebridean Baker. Originally from the Isle of Lewis, I'm an author, TV presenter and travel blogger. I spend lots of time travelling around the world, discovering amazing places and the people who live there. But my favourite place is home, the Hebrides, making me your perfect guide to the very best things to do, see, eat and enjoy throughout the incredible islands on the west coast of Scotland. Welcome to Scottish Island Adventures. In this episode, we're off to Islay and Jura. Often known as the Whisky Isles, they are the southernmost of the Inner Hebrides. Inhabited since 10,000 BC, nowadays they can be reached by regular Coinneach ferries from Kennaicraig on the Kintyre Peninsula. Steeped in history and offering visitors every modern luxury, they're famed for their friendliness and warm welcome. Coming up, I've got an Access All Areas pass at the Jura Distillery for Feis, Islay's amazing annual whisky festival. I do some bird watching at one of the top wildlife sites in Scotland, Loch Grinnart. And I have my nose in a book or two with the organisers of the Islay Book Festival. But first, I'm delighted to say that I'm joined here in the studio by the most famous voice to ever come out of Islay. His dulcet tones have graced BBC Radio and Gael for years. Famously, every Friday night in the 80s and 90s on the Request Show with Neen Mackay, and now with his own show, Macleod. Welcome to Scottish Island Adventures, John Carmichael.
Hello, Coinneach. It's strange to be speaking to you in English.
It is. But John, you are Islay born and bred.
I am.
What's the essence of Islay to you?
The essence of Islay, well, it's the only place in the world that I can truly call home for
Isn't
a start.
that lovely?
And I wasn't aware growing up in Islay about her attributes at all. You know, of course, we took them all for granted, as most islanders do with their own islands. Where do I begin, really? I mean, as you mentioned in your introduction, we have stunning beaches. We have, I think, probably the wildlife for me would be right up there. And I'm not impartial to a couple of dramas from time to time. And the malt whiskies, not so much for its flavour, perhaps, as for the skill and the history that's in every dram of that, you know, and skills really honed over the years and passed down through many generations. I was brought up in a farm called Dale Farm in Bridgend, and there was a farm distillery there.
Oh, wow.
It was not uncommon for farms to have their own distilleries. They distilled their own whisky.
Well, we can't not mention the two islands we're going to talk about in this podcast, Islay and Jura. I think it's probably one of the shortest ferry journeys in Scotland, hopping over to Jura. A very different island, isn't it, John?
Very different, but thank God for Jura, because it provides us with the majestic paps of Jura, which we always claim to be part of the Islay landscape. And in certain types of weather, you actually feel as if they are on Islay.
You're totally right, but for those who don't know, what are the paps of Jura?
Well, the highest mountains on the neighbouring island of Jura, and although it's only half a mile across the Sound of Islay to Jura, I actually didn't go there until I was in my early 20s. I went to Colonsay. I chose to go to Colonsay. And you'll never believe how I ended up going to Colonsay before Jura. I was interested in bird watching, and that's another story which I maybe get to later. And the school gave us membership of the YOC, which was the junior wing of the RSPB, if you pardon the pun. And as part of that, we got in tow with what was called the school's Hebridean Society. And when I was about 13, 14, Angus Darragh and myself were selected to go and join a group from St Paul's Preparatory School in London on Colonsay and camp out and tell them all about the local wildlife.
And so Colonsay first, then Jura.
Then Jura, yeah. I actually was just a young producer at the BBC in the 1970s when I first visited Jura to interview some of the remaining native Gaelic speakers from Jura. And I always will be grateful for that opportunity to go over and meet those precious, precious people before they passed away.
Well, they say, come for the whiskey, return for the island. And that's definitely what I've done. Feis Islay, otherwise known as the Islay Festival, is a glorious annual gathering of whisky fans from across the globe. It's held the last week in May to celebrate the island, her culture and her spirit. It's a brilliantly eclectic 10 days of fun that defines the whisky calendar, with each distillery hosting their own special event. And I headed on the ferry for Jura Day at Feis Islay. This is a bit of grated lemon that is going into my hot toddy bundt cake along with honey and whiskey icing. Today I'm on Jura. The island usually only have 200 residents, but today it's going to treble, maybe even quadruple in size for Feis Islay. And we're here for Jura Day at the Islay Whisky Festival, where there will be revellers, shenanigans, and lots of whiskey tasting as the visitors head over on the ferry from Islay for a special day on the island. That's the first bus arriving from the ferry, and all the revellers are looking excited for their day ahead. But for me, it's all about the cakes first, so I'm going to go and check on my hot toddy bundt cake. Well, Mike, seeing we're at Feis Islay at the Jura Distillery, I think the first thing we do is have a wee dram. What do you think?
That's absolutely the right topic.
So, tell me, what's your role at Jura?
Yeah, so I am the global brand communications manager. As a massive whiskey fan myself, it's great just to kind of get to come in every day and sort of learn all about the industry, all of the great work that people are doing, and yeah, it helps. It's got its perks as well. A nice little dram here and there is never a bad thing.
And we're here for Feis Islay, which is the Islay Whisky Festival. But Jura get their own day, so tell us a wee bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. We're very lucky that Islay obviously is a very, very, very well-known region when it comes to whiskey. It's synonymous with whiskey, and they have a beautiful festival that they put on every year, and we're just piggybacking, I guess, on the end, and they've been really welcoming and letting us come in and be a part of the festival.
How unique is the storyline of Jura and Jura whiskey compared to the other whiskey brands?
Our neighbours in Islay can be quite peaty traditionally, whereas Jura, what we've tried to do is make something that's quite deliberately different. It's a little bit lighter, it's a little bit fruitier, so you get some stone fruits coming through.
Now, this is my first Feis Islay, and I'm so excited to be on Jura for it. So what should I expect from the day?
Well, lots of whiskey, absolutely. We have lots of things going on. We have games on the field, out on the beach. We're very lucky. It's a beautiful day today, so when the weather's nice, it's lovely to sit outside in the pub. The great thing about Jura as well is everything is very walkable. It's very self-contained. Everything that's happening almost in daily island life as well as for the festival is never any more than a couple of minutes walk away. As well as a beautiful whiskey, we've got an incredible rum distillery, Deer Island, and we've got Lussa Gin, who are making incredible gin as well. So even if you're not a massive whiskey fan, there's definitely a little something for everyone.
Well, Mike, I'm looking forward to the Ceilidh later. I think Archie's going to give us a few tunes, so I think Sláinte.
Sláinte.
And I'll see you on the dance floor later.
Absolutely.
The wee village of Craighouse is full of revelry and Ceilidhs today.
It's so stunningly beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah, it's lovely.
And the drive was wonderful up from the ferry. The sun is shining. It's just lovely to be back here for all the people, the music, the atmosphere, and of course the wonderful whiskies, which you just bought a few bottles.
I've just got 2 bottles. I bought the 12-year-old sherry and the 18-year-old Jura.
Won't be drinking them all in a day. Will you?
No.
Pace yourself.
Megan, this is your first Feis, Islay, and you're here in Jura. How's it been for you?
It's been fantastic so far. The weather has been unbelievable. Everybody's been so welcoming, friendly. It's a great vibe, nice atmosphere. Everybody's just ready to have a nice time. It's been lovely.
It has been great. And you're from Nauticus, which is a bar in Edinburgh.
Yes, just down in Leith, yeah.
And you've been here doing cocktails for the day. So what's been the cocktails that you've been making? What's people's favourites been?
So far at the moment, our Hebridean highball has been an incredible win. So that's just made with the Jura rum cask. We make our own lime cordial at Nauticus. That was just infused with some fresh mint and a little bit of ginger beer. So kind of a nice twist on a dark and stormy. Perfect for a day like this.
Amazing. And you've been hearing some ceilidh music in there as well from the boys. Have you enjoyed that?
They've been brilliant.
Well, Megan, the queue at the bar is getting a wee bit hectic, so we better let you get back to your cocktails.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Cheers. I'll be in the distillery sharing my hot toddy bundt cake with all the guests coming to try the whiskey. I hope it's not a disappointment. Well, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Coinneach, I'm the Hebridean Baker. I'm from the island of Lewis, which is the furthest north of the Outer Hebrides. Today we're going to have a wee bit of a cake baking, telling a few stories, might even have time for a few Gaelic songs, you never know. So if you're walking out at any point, I know it's because I love taking Scottish flavours like whiskey or marmalade or great produce like venison and salmon and all these great things. But more than anything else, it's supposed to be hearty, cosy meals that people will enjoy. I kind of think if your auntie's coming around to visit, you would take my cookbook and find something. Okay, that's my kind of note. Do I start? Okay. Seanich na Coinneach gur báoch a Coinneach.
Seanich na Coinneach sa hula fair an tórara.
Seanich na Coinneach gur báoch a Coinneach.
Seanich na Coinneach sa hula fair an tórara.
Sauna reir chunami a chulami sa chunami. Sauna reir chunami na crútegeram.
Vrippigi casan ma shechar an lúr ar hundigi cool srátegirum.
Ní an na caliche crotigi crúbi hundigi cool srátegeram.
Vrippigi casan ma shechar an lúr ar hundigi cool srátegirum.
Hundigi cool, if hundigi cool, if hundigi cool, if srátegeram. Hundigi cool, if hundigi cool, if hundigi cool, if srátegeram. Hundigi cool, if repagan tool, if hundigi cool, if srátegeram. And that's what we came for. Just walking up to the local pub, just past the Jura distillery, and there's tunes just about to be played, drams everywhere, and folk just having the best time. And I think it's definitely time for a wee dram. John, you must have been to Feis Islay many times. Do you go for the drams or the ceilidhs?
Well, nowadays people go for both, of course, and one leads to the other quite often. But in the early days of the Feis, in the late 80s when I went first, it was a very different festival.
Okay.
Whiskey didn't feature prominently at all because at that time the distilleries hadn't got their act together in terms of, maximum
The production.
tourism advantages. Uh-huh. And now it's every distillery has its own visitor centre and it's very high tech and it's lovely. But in my day, going round a distillery was usually with the manager, and he would offer you either the short tour and the long dram or the long tour and the short dram. I voted always for the short tour. However, now over the years it evolved into whiskey. As the whiskey industry grew in Islay, the whiskey tourist industry anyway, they thought it was a great idea to combine both and to have music and whiskey
Yeah, so every distillery has its own day. So the
With
whole
its
week,
own musicians.
all that. I mean, I must admit, I loved my trip there.
Yeah.
And I think it's now already like cemented in my calendar.
Hope you didn't
every
overdo
year.
it.
I promise I didn't, John.
Well, you know, I know one B&B in Portellen that offers, and you bear in mind that they're up till the small hours drinking malts. Not the easiest thing to drink in quantity. And they offer Lafroig waffles with their breakfast.
I think I'd quite enjoy that. Well, for more information on Feis Islay, go to feisile.co.uk and don't miss a visit to the Jura distillery. Learn more at jurawhiskey.com. Or simply visit calmac.co.uk. So, John, with so many visitors coming to the island for the whiskey, what would you do to take them off the beaten track?
Well, the history of Islay is fascinating, and there are lots of places in Islay that you can go to and actually experience some of that. There are standing stones. There's the lovely carved cross at Kildalton in the churchyard, and it's a Celtic high cross, which is absolutely wonderful to see, and the original is still in Islay. They wanted to make a cast of it and take the original to the Museum of Scotland, but that didn't happen.
Okay.
So the original is still in Islay, and that's worth a visit. Some nice churches.
Well, actually, do you know what? Tell me a little bit about Islay Gaelic, because when I visit Islay, even though I have Gaelic, the Gaelic throws me a wee bit there. It's definitely a wee bit different. Tell me why, do you think?
Well, of course, you're a Lewis man.
I am a Lewis man.
Lewis people used to think that someone as far south as Islay, that we wore grass skirts, I think. But our Gaelic is significantly different, and maybe it's closer to the Irish.
Maybe,
We have a lot of words in common with our Irish neighbours. And also there was a connection between the Rins of Islay and Ballycastle, a connection that lasts till this day. People still go over to Ballycastle to the Lammas Fair. And I was at the Lammas Fair with some Islay worthies a number of years ago now, and we went over in a fishing boat, and we were sitting in this hostelry in Ballycastle, chatting with three old men from the Glens of Antrim, and the Bottach and the Kayak from Portnahaven were chatting to them in Gaelic. No problem.
No problem.
In fact, probably with greater ease than they would chat to somebody from Lewis.
Isn't that amazing? Well, I mean, one thing I always take on a trip to Islay is a pair of binoculars. Now, there's a place on Islay that is one of the top spots in Scotland for birdwatching. I headed to the northwest of the island to meet Jack Fleming from the RSPB at Loch Gryniart Nature Reserve with a pair of trusty binoculars at the ready. I've just arrived at Loch Gryniart Nature Reserve, and I'm off to meet RSPB Scotland's Jack Fleming. So Jack, we're standing here with a beautiful view of Benvicar and Benvan. What a place for this beautiful reserve.
Stunning, isn't it? Just takes your breath away on a day like this. But all the colours, all the smells, all the sounds.
You've got two reserves on Islay.
Yeah.
What should people expect to see when they come to the reserves?
Birdwatchers have come to Islay for such a long time, way before there was ever a reserve here, of course. It's well known in birding circles. And it's because it has a year-round appeal, literal year-round appeal. At the moment, we have hundreds of lapwing out there, redshanks and snipes, all calling away like mad. The winter evening, those spooky sounds you get when you're walking, these odd drumming noises the snipe make. It's just spectacular. People go, oh, it's like the Okavanga Delta, which it isn't really, but you know what they mean. It makes a great noise.
Yeah. So we're here at the visitor centre. What is the bird life that you would hope that people will see when they get here?
So depending on the time of year, and this time of year you've got all these breeding waders. This is probably one of the top 5 sites in the UK for seeing lapwing and the rest I just mentioned. But you can also walk up onto the moorland. We have a couple of nice trails here, and on the moorland you may well see hen harriers. We've had up to 6 pairs of hen harrier on this one reserve, which at one stage recently was more than the whole of England had. The spectacular, the females are brown, but the males are just ghostly silver with black wingtips, and they just cruise over the moorland. It's the most spectacular thing to see. But in the winter, you'll have flocks of maybe 25,000 barnacle geese and 7,000 Greenland white-fronted geese. But when the geese first come back, that cackling noise just lifts the hairs on the back of my neck. So Islay's quite a complex island, so it's geologically complex, quite apart from anything else, and that gives you a range of habitats in a relatively small area that you don't find anywhere else. So they'll come here in the spring and the summer, you get this fantastic weather like today, sun beating down, birds chirping away, smell off the gorse, all that kind of stuff, and they can stroll around and just enjoy it as it comes. You think, why would you come to the west coast of Scotland in the winter? But in fact, part of what Islay's charms is there is something different around every corner, and you can see so much of it just from the road, and it just absorbs people. It just draws you in. You feel very much part of the landscape here, and then you're connecting to wildlife within that landscape.
Jack, we've just left the visitor centre now. Do most people just do their own thing when they get here, or is there organised walks and things that are planned as well?
So the majority of people just come and enjoy the space themselves, but we do have guided walks, one in the O on Tuesday and one at Coinneach here on the Thursday, and it's great to get people out there with a guide who might help them understand what they're looking at a bit better, or indeed pick up things they might never have noticed themselves.
We've got our binoculars at the ready. Right, let's go here and see what we can see. I can see something pretty big.
Look at myself, it's either a white-tailed eagle or a golden eagle.
Oh wow.
And yeah, you look at that wide, huge wingspan, white-tailed eagle for sure. And they're actually looking, and if you look, you see the grey-lag coming up just now. The grey-lag geese coming up, they're trying to breed over the back of the flats there, and that's what that eagle's looking at just now. And you can see them looking quite closely, curving there now, dropping down, just taking a look. And no, nothing on the menu at the moment, but there will be shortly, I imagine.
Wow. So what impact does farming and the distilleries have on what happens here for bird life and nature on the island?
Farming is absolutely crucial to most of the main conservation interests here. So geese in particular, they're not daft birds, they like reasonable quality grass. It's a source of genuine conflict for farmers. It's one of the reasons that RSPB bought this reserve in the first place, was to act as a refuge when the population of birds was around the 20,000 mark. But if you imagine that multiplying up, and it's topped 50,000 in the past, that's a lot of geese eating a lot of grass. So to say it doesn't have an impact on the farmers would be totally incorrect. So it's a goose management system which goes some way towards paying the farmers to manage their land to encourage the geese, which is a globally important species. So the numbers are now down around the 30,000 mark, and that's around where they probably need to be able to have a healthy population. But without active farming for them, that population would be under serious threat. We have lapwing, redshank and snipe out there nesting. That's ideal territory for them. But in these rougher areas, which you can see from here, the darker greens and that big strip along the middle of the field, and these nettles here, that's where the corncrakes come in. So you've got this fantastic, almost natural cycle of the geese take the grass down. That's perfect for the lapwing coming in and nesting on. And then they go away, and the farming staff here go out and they'll manage the land to keep the grass as best they can for the geese coming back. So just year round, all the time.
Islay is so well known for its distilleries and its whisky. Does that have any impact on what you're doing here?
It does. It actually helps quite a bit, because you have the byproduct which is called draff, and that is a very useful cattle feed in particular. And it's great that so many of the people that come across for the whisky will walk off some of the fumes on the reserves around here or on the cliff tops, get the cobwebs well and truly blown away. And I think that is part of the experience. So why don't we just take a scamper along the road, take the car along to the car park and just walk up into the moorland so you get a first-hand experience of that.
I would love that. Yeah. And we'll take the binoculars.
We'll take the binoculars.
Right, okay, let's go. That's us just arriving on the Jura, and you really notice the landscape changing, the gorse and the beautiful cotton. I've got the binoculars ready, and lucky that I've got an expert like Jack who's going to be telling me where to look.
One of the most important species we have in this reserve is actually a butterfly, a marsh fritillary butterfly. Fantastic, beautiful little butterfly with checkered wings. And so many people just miss that completely. And they're most closely associated with a plant called devil's bit scabious,
okay,
which is a globe-shaped blue flower. and that's the most important food source that they have. So the correct level, the correct management of livestock grazing produces good crops of devil's bit scabious, and then the mass fertility comes in and makes the most of that resource.
Okay, let's have a look, see if we can find any.
Well, you know the West Coast, it's famous for its midges. We certainly get them here. I think 2 Islay midges can carry off a grown man. But if you look at this stuff here, one of my favourite plants. So this is bog myrtle, also known as sweet gale. But the smell of that's one of my favourite things.
That
it's
is beautiful.
Yeah, it's a fantastic smell.
So all I need to do is rub this all over my...
Everything, everything. Eat about 1 kilo of it, and you might get lucky and not get bitten.
Well, if that's not the best advice I've ever had in my life, I'm off to pick 1 kilo of bog myrtle right now. Well, I'm going to settle here and just have a relaxing afternoon.
Sounds like the perfect plan to me.
Well, John, I loved my visit up to see Jack, and I think it really sums up another unique thing about the island.
It sure does. And you know, just hearing those geese there took me right back to childhood days, and the first indicator that winter was on its way when the geese arrived from Greenland to chomp away at our juicy grass at Islay. And in fact, the soundtrack of my life, really, in Islay anyway, my youth, is very much to do with birds. And I mean, I remember we lived on a farm which wasn't quite a wooded area, and I used to fall asleep to the sounds of tawny owls in the surrounding woods,
lovely.
you know, singing. It was just lovely.
Yeah.
And very soothing. And then when we moved down to the O, which was a totally different landscape, it wasn't at all verdant and wooded. The O was moorland and rugged coastline, but beautiful in its own way, in a totally different way. But the bird sounds I heard there were the curlew, that lovely haunting sound of the curlew in the evening, and the snipe drumming.
Even if bird watching isn't your thing, it's just such a really special place to visit and experience the nature around you.
Oh, well, absolutely. In the O, for example, a trip down to the cliffs, to the headland, will not only does it provide you with a glimpse of the famous and elusive chough, but there are huge herds of wild goat to be found down there, and the smell, you smell them before you see them, actually. but it's interesting to see in their natural habitat, and in fact, I think that helps the chough population, and then we've got our eagle quota down there as well. That, Coinneach, is why Spring Watch or Autumn Watch or whatever, that's why they so often come live from Islay. I remember Simon King was over 1 year, then Michaela Strachan, and more recently Gillian Burke. We have that diverse range of nature.
Amazing.
And birdsong, I was saying that's the soundtrack of my life. It's been proven that it really enhances your mental health and well-being.
Well, for more information on guided walks at RSPB Loch Gryniart Nature Reserve or to plan a visit, go to rspb.org.uk or simply visit calmac.co.uk. And don't forget your binoculars.
Every Scottish island in your bucket list. Every sunrise, every waterfall, every bird song, every seashell, every stroll along the edge of the world. Every new friend you make, every dance, every dram, every downpour. Every crackling campfire, every sparkling night sky. Every feast under harbour lights, and every photo under that red Calmac funnel. Every moment, every memory, every journey starts a story. And you can start yours at calmac.co.uk.
We're teaming up with Beatson Cancer Charity, an incredible organisation making a significant impact across the west of Scotland. Their vital work depends on the generosity of people like you. Beatson Cancer Charity provides a wide range of essential services to cancer patients and their families. From complementary therapies to specialised health and work support, they offer a lifeline during some of life's toughest moments. If you want to get involved, head over to beatsoncancercharity.org/donate. Your help means the world to those who need it most.
Max Adventure, experts in self-guided walking and cycling holidays. You choose your route, your departure date, and who you travel with. We do the rest. Includes hassle-free luggage transfers, hand-picked accommodations, easy navigation, and 24/7 support. Let us do the legwork so you can put the miles in. This is active travel led by you. Begin your journey at maxadventure.com.
Now, John, are you much of a reader? What's on your bedside table just now?
Oh, on my bedside table. I'm never far from books connected with my heritage, I guess, and the Margaret Fay Shaw book, Folk Songs of South Uist, is just the most beautifully produced book. And the introduction, which is pretty long, describes wonderfully life in a bygone time in South Uist, and it's really, really lovely, and the traditions they had.
Well, actually a bit of a coincidence. I've got Songs of Gaelic Scotland by Anne Lorne Gillis on
Another
my bedside table just now. I'm looking for a couple of new Cayley songs at the moment.
Well, you'll find a wealth of song in there.
Growing out of a small book club in Port Ellen, the Islay Book Festival is now an established part of Scotland's thriving cultural scene. With authors coming from all over the country, the festival is filled with events taking place right across the island. I recently met up with Charlene Basali at the Celtic House in Beaumore to find out more. Falcha, Charlene, so good to see you. How are you?
Nice to see you too.
We're here today at the Celtic House, so tell us a wee bit about the Celtic House.
So the Celtic House is a gift shop, bookshop, coffee shop, and we are situated in the heart of Beaumont, which is the main village on Islay.
Like, I walked in and I must have seen 10, 20 things I wanted to buy straight away, from the ceramics and this wonderful part of the bookshop here as well, which just has everything. It's great to see so many island authors as books here.
It's lovely for visitors to have a wide selection of local interest books, but it's also nice for people here to have access to a bookshop that would stock, general literature and the last bestsellers.
Now, you've been hosting the Islay Book Festival for many years. Tell me how long it's been going for.
So the Islay Book Festival, I think, started in 2005, and originally it grew up from reading group in Port Ellen. So some ladies decided to launch a festival, and over the years it kind of grew and grew.
So for somebody who hasn't been to a book festival before, what should they expect?
So we have a general program, and then we have a school program as well, which is really exciting for the kids, because every school on Islay and also Jura gets to see a writer and speak to them, so that's really great for them. And as for the general program, what we try to do is to have always a kind of variety in themes, where we have fiction and non-fiction. We have things about history, things about nature writing, which is quite an important theme here. And also we always try to have an important Gaelic element, because it's just the island's culture.
And Charlene, as the chair of the festival, it must be a joy for you to decide who you'd like to invite along to speak.
Yes, that's really one of the most exciting parts of being on the festival committee, and that's a collective decision. So we get together and names are thrown in, and then we kind of decide who is going to come.
Charlene, what do you think it means to the people of Islay that you have created this prestigious book festival?
I think it's great as an opportunity to meet writers, because there's a lot of things happening on the mainland, but it's not always easy to travel all the time for events around the country because of maybe because of the cost. Sometimes it's just because of the weather in the winter that's unpredictable. So the fact that for once, so to speak, it's other people coming to the island. It's something that some people wouldn't have experienced otherwise. The events themselves usually are quite exciting because it's a social event. So you'll see people, have a chat and, especially at a book festival, then after the actual Q&A, you'd have the book signing, and everything would be chatting, having a cup of tea and everything. They're really community events.
Charlene, you've lived on the island for about 5 years now, so many people will be visiting Islay for the first time when they come to the book festival. So what other things would you recommend? A few wee secret favourites of yours?
Well, it's a hard question because there are a lot of things to see on Islay, so usually you'll need to come back a second time at least to see everything you want to see. Obviously, the beaches are a must-see because we've got incredible ones here. And then there's a lot of things that are history-based, so there's a great museum of Islay Life in Port Charlotte. So there's Finlagan as well, which used to be the ancient seat of the Lords of the Isles. That's really incredible to see. We've got beautiful Celtic crosses on the islands. So as well as all the nature-related things, there's also a lot to discover about Islay history.
It's a beautiful island, and any time of year, it just brings something wonderful. And personally, I can't wait to have my first Islay Book Festival visit. So I'm looking forward to our adventures together in September, Charlene.
Thank you. Me too.
Well, John, has that inspired you to write your autobiography?
Oh, I'm not sure about that. I don't think the world's ready for that, Coinneach. But what a lovely thing for you to look forward to, and what a great place to be launching your new book as well.
I think it must be really special for the islands to create events that become part of Scotland's cultural
Absolutely,
aspect.
and they start from such small beginnings, and that's what's part of the romance of it to me. And I remember when that book club at Port Ellen was established first, I knew some of the ladies who were involved in it, and I didn't ever imagine that it would become what it's become now. World-renowned authors are visiting Islay, and I think the most important thing that Islay gains from that is not so much the authors that are coming over, but the fact that they go to the schools and that they foster this interest in reading, because I think reading will never ever replace, no matter how long a child spends on his tablet or her tablet per day. I think reading a good book is such an important experience.
And Charlene was speaking to us from the Celtic House in Bowmore, which really is a destination, isn't it? For a cuppa or
it's
a
a great
treat.
meeting point, and it's also a great shop. I shouldn't be, I suppose I should be extolling the virtues of local businesses, but I would say, and we heard all about the attractions of the island, but we didn't do it justice, I don't think. Islay is a magical place, and it does lure people back again and again. And if you haven't been to Islay and are listening to this, please do so before you're much older. Don't leave it too long, anyway, because you'll want to come back.
For more information and to find out the programme for this year's festival, go to islaybookfestival.co.uk or simply visit calmac.co.uk. Now, if there was one more thing that you simply must do that you can recommend on Islay and or Jura, what would that be, John?
Well, I love walks on the moor. I love listening to and looking, of course, at bird life mostly, but also, as Jack was saying, all the lovely plants and butterflies and everything else. But it's such a relaxing thing to do, just to walk, no matter what the weather, and to hear that bird song, which is so evocative of my youth in Islay, and it really does clear a lot of space in my head. And if I've got a problem, they say that problems are magnified in the night. Well, they really disappear if you're walking on the moors in the lovely fresh Islay air.
Well, that's all from this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Please subscribe, like, rate, review, and share with your friends. For show notes and more information on this and all my other island destinations, plus full details on Caledonian MacBrain's routes, timetables, prices, and bookings, go to calmac.co.uk. Every journey starts a story, so book your Caledonian MacBrain island adventure now.
From the Big Light Studio